welcome. Tonight on the call, we've got myself, I'm Chief Exec of Barts and Bucks FA. We've got Alistair, who is Head of Governance, and we've got John Wood, who is, John, you look very young there, by the way. John Wood, who is Head of Development. And I'm going to let those two talk about their departments and I suppose the services that we can bring to you. I think for me, I love evenings like this because it's a real opportunity to welcome new volunteers into the game, either into football as a whole or football in our county, and to really say, a big thank you in advance for all that you are going to do for the game, because it's really important that we show how important volunteers are to how this game runs. As you would imagine, we working in football, we love football. But there's more to it than that, and we believe very much in our responsibility and our opportunity to use the game to develop people, to create opportunities, to reduce isolation, to improve mental and physical health, and to give general life skills. And that's really important to what we're trying to achieve as an organisation. Next slide, please, Al. So what I'm going to do in a very, very hopefully succinct way is to try and explain what we're trying to do over the next 3 years. So you get an understanding of where what we do fits into what hopefully you will be doing in your clubs. We are about to launch our new strategy, which is 21 to 24, and we're calling it Connecting the Game. And as I was just talking, we as an organisation and the people in it very firmly believe in why we do things, why we get up in the morning. And for us, it's around not necessarily just the ball. Of course, we love watching the game. We love, hearing about the stories in the game, but it is just that. It's about what the game can bring in terms of how we can engage with people. So we feel very much our purpose is to change lives and to connect people. What we do on a day-to-day basis is we lead, protect and support your journey in football at whatever point you come into the game and at whatever point you leave. Now, for us, obviously, as an organisation, we want to keep people in the game and inspire people's relationship with the game for as long as possible. So at whatever point they come into the game, to whatever point they leave the game or take a break from the game, it's about kind of keeping that as continuous as possible. The difference, I suppose, going forward in our new strategy is around our relationship with football in all communities. And we've got a real responsibility going forward to make sure that we are engaging with new communities, with people from all sorts of backgrounds, to make sure we give them the opportunity to be in this game. And it's the game that we all love. 5 main headings of our strategy going forward. The first one is around developing a workforce that's diverse. It's not the same people doing the same jobs, everyone looking the same, everyone thinking the same. It's really about us being able to tackle important issues, start having difficult conversations, really start to tackle and challenge the way people think and act in football. And to also drive positive change, so enabling people to have a voice. And that's really important for us going forward, is that we give everyone a voice to be able to shape what football looks like going forward. Football needs to be safe. Football needs to learn from lessons of the past to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to play in a safe environment, on good surfaces, free from discrimination and abuse, with processes that really minimise the risk to any participant. And that's what that second one is about using football to develop safe and healthy environments. The third one probably doesn't come as any surprise. COVID, we really don't know the true effects of COVID. We don't know, while we're starting to get some numbers as to which teams are coming back after a terrible 18 months. We now need to start to understand what life looks like, how we interact has changed. We've had to accelerate the need to change and adapt over the last 18 months and learn some lessons from what's happened. Fourth area is about improving our ability to ability to serve the game. That means our internal structures. We prepare for an ever-changing game. We use data to really inform where we're going in the future. But ultimately, the game relies on thousands of volunteers like you. Central to that lifelong relationship with football is you, and that's supporting you, rewarding and recognizing what you do, what your involvement in the game is, and more importantly, I suppose, what the impact it has on others. And that's what we're trying to do as an organization, is pull all of those things together to really connect the game. That's it from me, Al. If you want to move on, I know you know this next slide quite well.
Sure thing. So I'm going to just talk a bit around where we fit in the national structure, and then move on to the services and the role that the football services department plays in the local game. But this graphic we put together hopefully demonstrates really well just where we sit within the football pyramid and within grassroots football. We fortunate enough in that we do play a very central role. So we've got key relationships across every level of the game, and in many ways are your link through to the National FA, the national governing body that does everything from getting the England team to the final of the Euros, to the women's game, disability game, grassroots football, everything to do with the sport in England. So we sit in the middle of that pyramid, really, but equally we've got to make sure at a local level we have those close relationships with the clubs and the leagues and support everybody across the game in Berks and Bucks. So we will support very much your journey in football, as Liz said earlier on. Make sure that we are here to pick up any issues that you have, support the relationships between the clubs and the leagues, both in formal and informal structures. And as I said, make sure that your views are then represented to the FA. Working back the other way, however, the FA delegate county FAs different responsibilities to govern the game locally. And so that is where we also come in terms of implementing FA regulations, FA programs and development opportunities at a local level on behalf of the National Association. So really that's why that graphic works. It shows us as that central kind of pillar really within that relationship. That's not to say that there aren't opportunities for clubs and leagues, obviously, to go directly to the FA or to work between themselves. But as that kind of local body, we've really got our eyes and ears on the grounds of local football to be able to support and hopefully know in depth exactly what's going on across the county. So I'm going to come on now to where we sit in with football services. So every county FA, ourselves included, is pretty much structured with two key departments, football services and football development. And John will come on to the development side shortly. Within services, we've got four key roles that we play. And it is, as we said, very much around supporting the volunteers and the clubs and leagues within Berks and Bucks. First one I just want to touch on is around volunteer support. Appreciate this is first season for a lot of yourselves, and that has brought with it a whole raft of new technologies that everyone's having to get used to. It's 21st century, this is how we operate, and it gives us the opportunity to do so much more with a lot less paperwork and a lot less cost. But obviously there are a lot of digital platforms that the FA operates, and volunteers such as yourselves will have had to get to grips with over the last few weeks. So we offer volunteer support around the technology side. If you are struggling with affiliation, player registrations, anything like that, using the whole game system, please come to us. We've got two dedicated club support officers who are on hand to be able to provide one-to-one support if necessary. At the end of the phone, at the end of the emails, happy to pick up any issues with that. And we can also do dedicated training around that as well if you feel it will be beneficial. The other thing we do at a wider volunteer level is training. So looking at induction sessions for key volunteers, such as club secretaries, chairs, treasurers and welfare officers, both in terms of formal training, more informal CPD throughout the course of the season. So we're really here if you ever do find yourself in a bit of a bind throughout the course of the season, please pick up the phone, give us a shout, and Alex, Stacey or myself will be on hand hopefully to be able to pick that up and help you through it. Next slide then is around governance, and as the oversight that's delegated to us by the FA. around club affiliation, league sanction, and discipline. So we implement the annual registration program on behalf of the FA. So you will have affiliated to us as well as registered with your local league. And part of that is an opportunity for us to know and to manage on behalf of the FA number of teams, the coaches, referees, leagues, and so forth at a local level. We then also have oversight when you get out onto the pitch, and can't go away from the fact it is part of football. There will be foul tackles, there will be yellow and red cards throughout the course of the season, and so we oversee all of that side. So we do the administration around. I always find it saying, so we effectively have our own little legal system within football. So anytime a player picks up a yellow card, we issue a charge. That comes with it a £12 fee, all the way up to serious misconduct incidents, which unfortunately they're rare, but they do happen occasionally, where as the county FA we will investigate and we will look again to raise more formal charges for more serious incidents, whether that's a match that's been abandoned for whatever reason, or unfortunately when you do get the cases of discrimination that do crop up. Thankfully it is very, very rare, but by having the county FA on hand to provide that oversight, actually the hope is that we're offering or we're making sure that football remains that safe and enjoyable experience for everybody that's taking part. The final aspect of that, I realise I've gone through in almost reverse order here, is the club structures. And again, that's more the proactive support that we're looking to provide to yourselves as the clubs. So if you're at the stage where you are looking to progress in terms of your legal structure, or around becoming a charity, becoming incorporated as a business, or just need support around how best to structure the club growth in terms of committees, running AGMs and so forth, then we're here and available to offer that kind of dedicated support around your club structure and the internal governance within the club. We have things such as self-assessments, templates, reference guides, all manner of materials that we can offer to make sure that actually as an organisation you're the fittest and strongest and healthiest that you can be, and in doing so you can be sustainable and you can stay with us and be members of Berks and Bucks for many years to come, which is obviously our main goal as well through all of this. The other aspect that fits quite nicely in with the with the governance and the discipline side is around safeguarding. That falls within football services as well. So we have a designated safeguarding officer who oversees both compliance of youth team coaches with DBS checks and FA safeguarding education courses, and then also will provide support both to the clubs and the FA when complaints may get made. So if you are a youth club and you find there's been a complaint that's been made, whether it's against a coach or just even player to player, and you need support on that, how to make sure that you're acting in the best interest of children throughout all of this, then please come to us and we're happy to provide that support in terms of how to tackle it, what the ramifications may be, and guide you through that process. Equally then, if there are more serious allegations that are made that go up to the FA, we provide that support again at a local level with the relationships we've got with the clubs to be able to guide and support the FA through that. Going to come just a little bit on into safeguarding in a bit more depth, and the mantra that we have at the FA is that safeguarding is everybody's responsibility, and it is something that we do try and live and breathe and reinforce across all levels of the game. As an organisation, we've got multiple members of staff with safeguarding backgrounds and that are here to support both clubs and the organisation and embed safeguarding across every level of the game. As an organisation, Liz is our senior safeguarding lead, and in that role makes sure that safeguarding is always a priority as a business and as an organisation, and ultimately the safeguarding buck stops with her. I then deputise for that, so I'll be the deputy senior safeguarding lead, the world's most complicated title. I've mentioned before we've got Graham, who's our designated safeguarding officer, and is really there to provide that frontline support to clubs and to volunteers, and kind of manage safeguarding on a day-to-day basis. He's then deputised by Chris Penny, who is our investigations officer. And again, Chris is here to provide support if in Graham's absence or as needed throughout the rest of the season. And then we have John Horsley, who is one of our directors. He's vice chairman of the association and also acts as our board champion and ensures, again, that safeguarding remains a priority, remains a conversation, and remains embedded across the organisation and at board level. And at the heart of all of that, and all of those roles and functions are there to support the club and the league welfare officers, who are really the ones making sure that all of that best practice, all of those safeguarding compliance, all of that support for children, making sure that football is the most enjoyable experience that could possibly be for children and for adults at risk, making sure that that is happening at a club level. As we said, this model means that we are able to embed that throughout every level of the game, and it's something that is also going to be expanding into the adult game over the next few years to make sure that, although it may be open-aged adult football, there will still be children attending games. There will still be children of players present. You may have 16, 17-year-olds playing in adult football. And again, we've got a responsibility to make sure that we're providing a safe and enjoyable environment for them as well. The final aspect then of football services is around competitions, and that is our annual county cups. We are now hosting 18 county cup or traditional format county cup competitions at youth and adult, male and female. And then we're also running sort of festival county cups in futsal and disability. Fortunately, our county cups have had a break for a couple of years, but we're really excited that they're coming back now, and we'll be here for hopefully for many more years to come. And we're excited to be able to actually put on matches ourselves. It's a great opportunity if you are involved this year to be able to say that you are the best team in that category within the county. Is a real prestigious title. When you look at the Senior Cup that dates back to, I think, 1870s. And Reading FC were the very first winners of that. So you can trace that history all the way back, and we make sure that we're continuing that going forward for many years to come. And there are the mugshots, just so that we can put some faces to names. So I've got myself as the head of governance. I typically oversee the support for leagues and then those kind of more structural governance queries that may come up. Alex and Stacey across the top there are our frontline customer support. So they're the ones that will be picking up your player reg queries at the moment, the ones picking up the phone and making sure that if you've got any questions that come up throughout the course of the season, they'll be the first ones to try and help you out with those. Along the bottom then, you've got Graham, who, as I mentioned before, is our safeguarding officer, Chris, who heads up all things discipline for us, and then Neil, who up until today was our newest member of staff and oversees the county cups. So yeah, that is us. Thank you very much. Over to you, John.
Evening, everybody. As Liz and Alistair said, my name's John Wood and I head up the football development team. I suppose for us and other county FAs, the purpose of the football development team is very much, I suppose, what people first think, which is around growth and retention of levels of participation, but also about ensuring that we're developing and improving the overall football environment for players, coaches, referees, volunteers. Again, that's kind of, I suppose, the core part of the business in some ways. But in addition to that, and I think what Liz alluded to within the business strategy, what we also are aiming to do is highlight and really bring out the wider benefits of sport, and in particular football, and what that gives to clubs and more importantly the local community, because sport and football in particular can be extremely powerful tools, and we want to show the importance of football to all, really. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to talk about everything that the football development team do and are planning to do this season, because we would be here for kind of a long period of time. So what I'm going to do this evening is just talk a little bit about the individuals within the development team, their core responsibilities, so you know who to come to for certain queries or for certain levels of support. And then what I'm going to do is talk about 3 or 4 areas that as fairly new clubs you might find particularly relevant to you at the moment. So as I said, my name's John Wood. As head of delivery, I not only am responsible for kind of managing the development team, but I also look after facilities and funding and investment across the County FA. So I'm your port of call if you are having difficulties with your facilities or looking to improve the quality of your facilities, or potentially even looking to develop new facilities, as well as help with kind of levels of funding support and investment if that's kind of required across your club. Next on the top line we have Steph Clark, who is our football communications officer. So Steph's role is very much I suppose around marketing and promotions, but it's much more than that. I suppose what Steph tries to do is really highlight and recognise the great work that takes place, not just within our work, but also you guys, and highlight the great work that's being done within grassroots football. We also want to ensure that volunteers and clubs are being recognised as well for that great work. And again, that's something that we're kind of trying to work on, and we'll be working on as we move forward. Next up, we have Sam Meyer. Sam is not missing in action. He is just not started yet. So he actually starts with us on the 20th of September. Hence why we don't have an official photo of him at the moment. But Sam's role as referee development officer will be very much focused around referees, as the title suggests. And it will be around recruiting new referees, supporting our existing referees, and also for those referees that want to move forward and progress up the refereeing pathway, supporting them with their training and improvements, and also helping with our wider refereeing workforce, because we do have volunteers kind of across our network that support us with mentoring and coaching and observing for a whole host of different competitions and reasons. So, and as I said, Sam starts on the 20th, and he will, I'm sure, hit the ground running, but he will be your main port of call if you've got any queries relating to referees. So the bottom row of individuals we have are our football development officers. Each of them have their own strands of work. So if we start from left to right, we have Richard Brandt. So Richard is the development officer that's responsible for, previously it was around coach education and youth football, but now it's what we class as coach development, because we will come on to it in a moment, but we no longer deliver education courses. That's all managed centrally by the FA. But what we are conscious of is still to ensure that coaches have ongoing support from us and ongoing opportunities to continue to improve and get feedback and just ask questions and get that little bit of support. So Rich very much works around that, and he also works around the youth game, trying to support our young leaders, and as well as kind of work with our youth leagues and clubs to ensure that they've got everything they need in order to be able to offer the levels of football that we would expect in provisions in their local areas. The gentleman in the middle is Jonathan Coles. So Jonathan looks after our adult male area of work. So he works very closely with the kind of traditional leagues, if you like, and in trying to ensure that we are hoping that they will offer the best types of provision to ensure that we're continuing to attract adult players and also retain those ones that we've got at the moment, because that is a real challenge at the moment, is trying to retain our adult players, and we can't just keep doing the same offers and expect people to continue to be as enthusiastic as they were 20-30 years ago. So we know we need to move with the times. Jonathan is also responsible for disability football, which is a growing area of kind of football development, not just in our county but across the country. And as I said, he works to ensure that we've got disability clubs and a disability league, so that individuals with different impairments have the same opportunities as everyone else to participate regularly in football. The final football development officer and the second person missing in action is Alex Pratt. So Alex actually started with us today. So he again is fairly fresh and new into the job. His responsibility is around women and girls and also what we call recreational football. So obviously from a women and girls perspective, Alex looks after everything from youth to adult, from pathway to education. So anything to do with women and girls football, Alex is the individual to get in touch with. But what he also does is he looks after what, as I said, what we class as recreation and social football. So that's for individuals that maybe can't commit to regular football, or don't want to commit to regular football, or are rehabilitating or coming back into football. We offer different adaptations of kind of the traditional game. So whether that be less competitive matches, or whether it be just organising kind of kick arounds to ensure that people have got the opportunity to play. So again, if you're looking to link in with that offer as a club, or potentially even offer it, Alex is the individual to kind of get in touch with for that. Alex, Al, has that moved on? Yep, perfect. Okay, so as I mentioned before, rather than take you through everything we do, I'm just going to highlight some of the key functions that I think will be relevant to you at the moment. So firstly, as I said, I talked about funding at the very outset. There are numerous different avenues of funding that are actually available to clubs, but what I want to talk about is what we call the small grants, or what was previously called small grants. And this is really quite accessible funding that clubs can kind of engage with quite easily without having to fill out mountains of paperwork or provide huge amounts of evidence. So you'll see on the right hand side, I've kind of highlighted 4 avenues of kind of funding. So that's goalposts, storage containers, clubhouse refurb, and portable floodlights, which are things that clubs regularly kind of ask for or inquire around. Now, we're fortunate enough that, as I said, within football, we do have a funding charity called Football Foundation that the FA, the Premier League, and the government all put into. And as a result of that, we are in a fortunate position where clubs can actually quite easily access the funding for these types of things. As I said, we class these as small grants, and that means that they're up to anything to £25,000. And as a club, you can get a maximum contribution of 75%. So if you came and said that you were looking for a pair of goalposts that were coming for £2,000, you could effectively apply for £1,500 of that total amount. And then you would obviously have to find the other £500. Really straightforward application process. You get confirmation back within 1 to 4 weeks. And the criteria does differ slightly depending on what you're looking for, but they try and make it as straightforward as possible, so the majority of clubs will be eligible for that. Really straightforward to find. It's just typing in Football Foundation into a search engine. It comes up, and then at the very top of the page, there's looking for funding. But again, if you have any problems, I'm more than happy to support with that. The next thing that I do want to talk about as well, because it's always something that pops up whenever we survey clubs, is the quality of facilities, and in particular pitches. As a local county FA, we have an ambition that links in with the FA and the Football Foundation's main target of improving the quality of grass pitches. So the FA have a national target of improving 5,000 pitches to make them good. And as you can see, the metric of quality ranges from poor, basic to good and advanced. And as I said, our ambition is to have as many of those good pitches as possible, so that we can have teams and clubs playing on high, good quality pitches, because we know that not only does that attract players and volunteers into the game, but it's crucial to retain them, because you don't have things like games called off and poor quality pitches affecting the standard of the games. So from our point of view, as I said, we have a real ambition to improve the quality of pitches that we have. Again, we're in a really fortunate position that we do have funding available to support clubs with this. So we have a couple of avenues of funding that I won't go into in too much detail tonight, but we have funding available to clubs that look after their own pitches, and we can support them with whether it be contractor works, or whether that be fertilizer and consumables. And the other alternative is that we can also help with grants for machinery. So again, from that point of view, there's some real great opportunities for clubs to try and improve their pitches. And as I said, that's something that we've got an ambition to do. So we're more than happy to link in and support you with that. the final thing that I just want to mention on the funding aspect, and I'm not going to go through each of these, is that whilst there is a huge amount of funding that's available within football, there's also a lot of local organisations that are out there that will see the benefits that football brings. So again, if you are struggling for funding and for whatever reason the Football Foundation criteria doesn't match up, please look across locally at some of your grants, because there are huge amounts of funding pots out there. It might require a little bit more work on your club's part, but as I said, there is funding available for you. And as I said, I'm happy to share that list if anybody's interested. Right, so moving away from kind of funding and facilities, the other aspect that I think is really relevant for new clubs to understand is around coaching. And I know that we've got individuals here that are both from adult clubs, and we also potentially might have some youth clubs on board. So I'll just explain kind of the difference in what we would expect, really. So what I've outlined here in this particular slide is, I suppose, what we consider the coaching pathway. So you've got the FA Introduction to Coaching Football. Now, for those that have been involved in football for a while, that was previously known as the FA Level 1. And then as we move up, you can see you've got the FA Level 2, which will soon to be the UEFA C, and then the FA Level 3, which is the UEFA B. For the process of this evening, I'm only going to talk about that very bottom part, so the Introduction to Coaching Football. And our aim, I suppose, is for every youth team to have a qualified coach, so somebody that has undertaken that course. And the FA have recently adapted their delivery model. So no longer is it a case that you have to give up 2 or 3 weekends in order to come out with that qualification. These qualifications are actually done online now. So as a result of that, that means that you can do it from the comfort of your own home. Often they're midweek, so you don't have to give up a weekend. It can just be an evening, and you can do it to kind of fit around your hours. So from that aspect, we hope that it's become more accessible for clubs and coaches to kind of access. But as I said, we do understand that there's still kind of a commitment needed. But from our point of view, and from my point of view with experience in coaching, what I would say is the more that you put into it as an individual, the more you'll get out, not just seeing players develop, but enjoyment and passion and enthusiasm for the game. So as I said, our aspiration is for every youth team to have at least one qualified coach. And linked into that Introduction to Coaching Football, what it also gives you, as well as that coaching qualification, you also get an Introduction to First Aid qualification, as well as a Safeguarding Children qualification as well. So not only are we giving you the practical coaching experience, but we're also giving you some really good life skills and some really important qualifications to support your club with as well. When we're talking about the adult game, I think, of course, we would love, again, every coach to be qualified with the Introduction to Coaching Football. But we understand that, especially when we're talking about grassroots football and Sunday teams, that may not necessarily be what the need is for your coaches and for your players. But what we would ask is that you have at least one individual that has an introduction to first aid in football, so that you've got a qualified first aider there in case there are any injuries or accidents. So as I said, we would love everybody to have the Introduction to Coaching Football. All youth teams, as I said, that will be an ambition for us. In relation to adult teams, again, would kind of push you towards it, but very much as a minimum, we'll want you to do the Introduction to First Aid in football. Just linked into coaching very quickly, what I also want to just touch on, and again, I'm just aware of the individuals we've got in the room, so this might not be relevant for everybody, but we've got a BBFA coaches network. So as I alluded to before, we don't have those coaching qualifications where you have to give up weekends and go and attend a venue that may not be necessarily that close by. But what that does mean is that you don't necessarily get that personal touch. You don't get that opportunity to speak to a tutor or an experienced coach about how you deliver and getting feedback on your delivery. So what we are looking at doing is developing a coaches network that will effectively give you short, sharp opportunities to meet with tutors, to meet with other experienced coaches, and also to meet with new coaches within your network as well. So there'll be 2 or 3 hour sessions that, as I said, you can come along to and as I said, pick out different topics and things that you find interesting. So the aim is to deliver 5 or 6 of these across in each area, and then you as individuals or coaches can obviously sign up to those. And
It's happened, Liz. He's frozen. And you're on mute.
And I'm on mute.
There you go.
Yeah. So I don't know what the next slide is, but what I'll just finish off here is this is a really exciting opportunity for us. It's a brand new market for us. It's an opportunity for us to get closer and closer to the coaches. In the past, what has happened is perhaps we've got too fixated on the qualification, and actually where we want to kind of put ourselves, position ourselves, is to make sure that that we're supporting coaches and volunteers through the journey, whatever that looks like. Do you want to go on to the next one? I'll see what I can do. Oh, here we go.
I think that just provides more of the information we've provided already.
Yeah, so again, it will be a membership program. It will be a paid for activity, but it is an opportunity to access really exclusive opportunities in terms of the services that we can provide. So virtual face-to-face resources, and then a community group to allow you to kind of share and network as we go along. Outcome is there. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Oh, do you want to take this one out?
Yeah, sure. So the final one is, you may have previously heard, if you've been involved in other clubs or when you're looking to set up, you may have heard of Charter Standard, which was a kite mark that the FA created around good quality grassroots clubs, and to kind of give that public face to say that this is an established and well-run club. It's recently been rebranded. Going forward, it will be known as England Football Accreditation. So as it says on the screen, accredited clubs are there to set the standards, raise the bar and fly the flag of respect and diversity for football and England. As I said, it is that kite mark really to say that we've reviewed the club, you meet these higher level standards rather than just the basic minimum affiliation requirements, and that we therefore have the confidence that this is a well-run and established club. There will be different criteria to it. Again, it will be on a 3-star basis, ranging from 1-star adult and youth clubs that meet that charter standard level, moving up to your larger development and community clubs, and those organisations which really are embedded across every aspect of the local community, both sporting and outside of sports. The benefits of it, you're able to demonstrate that you have achieved that kite mark, and that typically leads to greater attraction for players, coaches, and volunteers. Typically, they will also accredited clubs are ones that have better discipline, which again helps with your recruitment and that public facing aspects of the club. And it also helps with sustainability, because as part of becoming accredited, you go through various governance checks to make sure that you have that structure in place, to make sure that you're able to weather any storms that may come about. As you get through through the different levels, it's also a focus very much around development and expanding the club, and we're on hand to help you through that process. So as you go up into the 2- and 3-star accreditation, it's about providing different pathways for either different genders, for having disability pathways on offer, as well as higher or greater concentration of qualified coaches within the club to support that sustainability, as we mentioned before, and really establish yourselves as a pillar of the football community locally. I think I managed to cover that one. Liz, I saw John show briefly, but I think he's now dipped back out again. What I would say is
I think he is there.
He's there.
I am here. Sorry, guys. I'm just having a few problems with the Wi-Fi, so I do apologise. Al and Liz, couldn't have done it any better. So thank you both very much for covering. Just want to cover one final thing, if I may, and that is that from a development team perspective, we generally tend to work with the larger clubs and the clubs that kind of are keen to interact with us, and that isn't necessarily through choice, but it's just the fact that those are the clubs that are in a position, I suppose, to kind of take on some of the things we've talked about. What I would say that as new clubs, the first couple of years, I suppose, are the most fragile and you're the most vulnerable. So I would say that I know that it often requires a little bit of additional time to put in, but please consider some of these things that we've suggested, because as I said, it's all there to help you develop. And as I said, I would say it's never too early from a club's point of view to get involved with us, because we're really keen to ensure that you as clubs are as stable as possible. And all of the development team are more than happy to kind of link in with you and support you with whatever you need. So but thanks very much for listening, and happy to take any questions.
Yeah, so that is it in terms of the slides and our introduction. I guess if there are any questions, we'd be more than happy to try and field anything. If there's anything you'd like more information on, anything you're interested in, or if you want to talk local football, we've got more than happy to talk it to as long as anybody likes. That's why we're here, and it's why we're all involved in the game. You should all be able to unmute if you would like to, or you're welcome to pop something in the
Okay, we've got a hand up, Al.
Oh, okay.
It might be Neil. Is it Neil?
Yeah, Neil, do you want to unmute?
It is, yes. I was interested a bit more in the transition elements that we need to cover off safeguarding and underage players in the men environment. If there's anything that you could share.
Yep. So it's really going to be something that we're working on over the course of this season. The goal, or it's not even the goal, the requirement from the FA is that once we hit the 22-23 season, every club that has 16 or 17-year-olds playing in adult football will be required to, or the coach will be required to have a DBS and have completed the Safeguarding Children's workshop. Outside of that, what we're trying to do is really embed safeguarding across all aspects of the game. And so it's more on a voluntary basis, but looking to work with adult clubs, regardless of whether you have children playing for you or not. By children, I mean the 16, 17-year-olds, to just make sure that it is that safe and inclusive environment for everybody. Certainly. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So the requirement is for all coaches that are involved, or the primary head coach to have DBS?
It will be for all named coaches of teams with under 18s playing in them.
Okay. And will all of those need the safeguarding as well, or will we be able to specify so they'll all need to do the safeguarding as well?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and that's FA for next season?
Yes, so we will be working with clubs. We've got to identify the clubs that have the under 18s playing for them, and we'll work with them then to make sure that we support them go through the DBS process, and make sure that effectively by the end of this season and the start of next, they'll be able to re-affiliate for next season without any interruption.
Yeah, I mean, it will be a condition of the affiliation for next season. So it's very much about doing it this season to be ready for next season.
Yeah, so it's an awareness of where you want us to be for this time next year, rather than in September of next year trying to get it all done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know we have having had two lads that have transitioned from junior into adult, and one of those still being under 18 till February. There is a challenge for lots of clubs in that move between under 16s into under 17s, under 18s, or open football and men's. So being able to offer understanding from yourselves what we need to have in place is quite crucial, I think, to make sure that we don't miss out on opportunities for players.
Absolutely, in that transition phase from youth to adult, it's such a crucial time for players, and it's one where unfortunately we do see drop off because of that jump from youth football up into the men's game. What we're trying to reinforce is the approach of child first. Yes, they're eligible to play adult football. It's open aged. A lot of those requirements or a lot of that structure doesn't apply. However, they are still children, and they therefore we do need to make sure we do everything we can to protect them.
Yeah. Okay. So from my perspective offline, it'd be interesting to touch base with somebody to understand what I need to take back to the club to make sure that we get things in place for next year and start that ball rolling early.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll ask Graham to get in touch with you.
That'd be lovely. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Really left for us to do is to thank you for your time tonight. This is the start of a journey. It's the start of hopefully a long journey. We want to keep you in the game as long as possible because, as I said before, the influence you bring on the people that you serve and your members it inspires people to stay in the game for as long as possible. So that ultimately is what we're trying to do. So please do pick up the phone. Please do drop us an email. We are a friendly bunch, and we do want to help you because we're all in it together, and that's the main thing for it here is that we're all working in the same direction. So thank you for your time tonight. Thank you to Al and John. Excellent presenting, and we look forward to seeing you over the season.